Are all the other committee members there? Okay. Can I start? Sure, all right. Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. During the declared emergency in the City of Toronto, Committee of Adjustment virtual public hearings are being conducted by electronic means through WebEx, an online digital platform, and streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. These measures are necessary to comply with physical distancing requirements and a provincial order limiting attendance at public gatherings. This will be a virtual public hearing, and participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx, an online event that is being moderated by city staff. Anyone wishing to view the hearing may do so by watching it on YouTube. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting either by their computer, a phone or tablet app, or by telephone. All participants will automatically be muted on entry. When your item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. Only the committee members will be participating by video. Any registered participants will be participating by audio only. We ask that you also mute your devices until you are called on to speak. We acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. In accordance with Sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. My name is Alan Smithies, and I will chair today's meeting. Joining us on the panel today are Nadini Sankar, Giuseppe Bartolo, and Nazila Adarati. Also present are Daniel Antonacci, Adam Wills, Brendan Clapp, and Kelly Reed. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning bylaw that applies to property, permission to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consent to sever property to create new lots. Anyone in attendance today who wants to receive a copy of the committee's decision on an application must submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and email address because Committee of Adjustment and the TLAB will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, decisions may be appealed to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, or in some limited circumstances to the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. The hearing procedure is as follows. I will call each item in the order listed on the agenda. Where an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant will proceed with their presentation if required. The committee may ask questions and/or take the matter into the committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant or agent, is given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. I will comment when you are reaching the 5-minute limit. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters described in the application. The applicant or agent will proceed first and will make a presentation to the committee of the application. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if it is substantially revised to ensure that the revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice of the applicant are informed of the changes. Then individuals, either in support or opposed to the application, are invited to speak. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished their presentation. When all speakers are finished, the applicant or agent has an opportunity to rebut only those issues that were raised by the speakers. This marks the end of the discussion. The application will then be taken into committee for a decision. Are there any committee members here this afternoon who have any conflicts of interest they'd like to declare? Okay, thank you very much. We have no files to close, so we will be proceeding to item number 11, 179 Cottonwood Drive. I notice we have the applicant is here, Mr. David Smith. Are you there?
I am. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee.
Mr. Smith, thank you. Just wanted to ask before you start, have you had the opportunity to read the city report from City Planning dated June 2nd, where they indicate that they have no objection to your proposal, but they recommend, as a condition to approval, that the proposal be developed in substantial accordance with the side yard setbacks and driveway width measurements as shown on the site plan drawing attached to this report. Did you have you're aware of that condition?
I am fully aware, and we have no problem with the condition.
Okay, thank you. Did you have the opportunity to review the 8th of June report from Transportation Services?
I did, and I submitted a response to
Because
it.
they're
You should have
recommending
on file.
refusal of the application because the driveway is too wide. So you may
And
want
I submitted a
to,
response.
what we'll do is I'll just ask the committee, would the committee, there's no one registered to speak on this item, but would the committee like a presentation, or does it have any questions? I will be asking the applicant about the issue of the driveway, but would you like a presentation on the application?
Well, I appreciate a presentation.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Adirati. Sir, if you could give us a presentation on what you see as the merits of your proposal. I'd also ask you to focus on that report from Transportation Services. Sir, are you there? Mr. Smith? We lost Mr. Smith. Is he still there, or is he? I'll stand it down. Okay, my apologies, committee members. I'll stand this down until Mr. Smith calls back. We'll move on to the next item, item number 12, 222 GOLFDALE Road.
Good afternoon.
Yes, hello, sir. Are you Mr. Perlman?
Yes, I'm Evan Perlman, planning
Okay, yeah,
consultant.
just a moment,
with Glen
sir.
Schnarr.
Just a moment. Sir, can I get your full name and address, please?
My full name is Evan Perlman. I'm a planning consultant with Glen Schnarr and Associates, Inc.
Okay, thank you, sir. What you're asking for in the variance is very clear. It's just a floor space index variance. There's no one registered to speak on this item. I'll ask the committee if it has any questions or it would like a presentation. Now, this is item number 12, 222 GOLFDALE Road. Would the committee like a presentation? Mr. Bartolo? Yes, sir. If you could give us a brief presentation on what you see as the merits of your proposal.
No problem. We are seeking approval of just one variance to increase the permitted maximum floor space index, or FSI, on the property to 0.56 to permit the construction of a new family room addition to the rear of the existing home. This is only an addition on the ground floor and basement areas. Back in 2005, the Committee of Adjustment approved a variance on this property to construct the current home with a maximum FSI of 0.5. So although the public notice does state we are going from 0.35 to 0.56, we are in fact only going from 0.5 to 0.56 due to the previous minor variance approval. In my opinion, this application meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act. It meets the general intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw, and it's minor and appropriate in nature. The owner has worked to ensure that this home addition only requires this one variance. There are no impacts to existing trees. And to my understanding, city staff have not provided any comments on this application, meaning there's no objection from them. Glad to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, sir. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? There being none, we have no one registered for this item, so if I could get a motion on this application, please?
I'll
Ms.
motion
Sankar?
to approve the application,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chair.
And there are no staff conditions recommended. Someone to second Ms. Sankar's motion? Ms. Adderati seconds. All those in favor? That motion carries. Sir, your application has been unanimously approved without condition. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much.
Now I'll go back to item number 11. Is Mr. Smith there? Mr. Smith?
I am here. Can you guys hear me?
Okay, now we got, you disappeared there for a moment, and I think we had asked for you to give us a presentation on what you see as the merits of your proposal, and also to keep in mind that the issue of the recommended refusal from Transportation Services.
Yes, absolutely. Apologies for the disconnection. Murphy's Law, I guess. I've been sitting here for half an hour. So with regards to the application and specifically the transportation report, I submitted a response on June 17th. And just to summarize it quickly, the dimension that is of concern was first and foremost not of concern by city planning and part of the work we did with them. It's important to understand that this is taken at the widest point of the driveway, and the vast majority of the driveway is substantially narrower. If you guys can look at the site plan, you can see that it tapers substantially. And within my response from June 17th, you'll see that I provided a number of photos from the neighborhood. And this is a very common consideration. The challenge is that there isn't enough space to turn the vehicle around on these driveways. So you're backing out of them. And with a bit of snow buildup, it narrows that driveway even more. So the request of the clients is simply to widen it a bit, and this is very much in keeping with the rest of the neighborhood. I appreciate transportation's position, but I don't think that what we're asking for is above and beyond what's appropriate for the environment. With regards to the rest of the application, I think it easily meets the 4 tests. Again, we worked hand in hand with city planning. There are no concerns with forestry, obviously. We have the support of the neighbor at 177, and we reached out to the neighbor to the other side, but the house is actually vacant. So long story short, there is no opposition. I think that the variances are minor and very much in keeping with the merits of the official plan and zoning bylaws, and I'd be happy to answer any other questions you have.
Okay, thank you, sir. I just wanted to ask, I'm noticing from your drawing, the proposed driveway width at the property line reads, is this correct, 4.34 meters?
It does, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Are there any further questions of the speaker? And just to emphasize, there is no one registered to speak on this item. So if I could get a motion on this application, please?
Through you, Mr. Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Bartolo had his hand
Sorry,
up.
go ahead. Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead.
Ms. Sankar, go ahead. Okay.
Okay. Hearing the explanation of the transportation report, I accept that. And I do see that you've got the photos to prove that it does meet the character of the neighborhood, plus letters of support. So I'm going to put forward a motion to approve this application. It will be subject to forestry and also subject to the staff conditions that the proposal be developed in substantial accordance with the side yard setbacks and the width measurements that was shown in the site plan drawing that you had.
Thank you, Ms. Sankar. Can I have someone to second Ms. Sankar's motion? Mr. Bartolo seconds. All those in favor? That motion carries unanimously. Sir, your application has been approved, subject to urban forestry and city planning conditions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay, we're now on item number 13, 509 Melrose Avenue.
Good afternoon.
Just a moment.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, just a moment.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
a good sign.
Are you Mr. Labrach? Did I pronounce that
Yes, I did.
Labrach?
Librack.
Okay, thank you. I notice we have no one registered. Mr. Labrach, can I get your full name and address, please?
Sure.
Mr. Labrach,
Richard Librack.
it's very hard to hear you.
Can you hear me now?
That's a little better.
Can you hear me now? Okay, good. My name is Richard Librack. I'm principal of Richard Librack Architect and the agent for the owner.
Oh, that's better, thank you.
Richard, Adam Wills from Community Adjustment. It sounds like there's a lot of feedback in the microphone. Are you watching this on YouTube as well as being on WebEx?
No, I'm not. If I turn off my speaker, maybe that's one way of doing it. I'm not sure. Hold on.
Thank you. That should probably help.
Can you hear me still? Can you hear me now?
Yes, that's much better, thank you.
Okay, great.
Before we go any farther, Richard, there's still some feedback. We can hear our voices in your computer and it's bouncing through the system.
I'm really not sure what to adjust here. I'm sorry, I don't know what to adjust. Does this program require a speaker being on at my end? Because if I turn it off, maybe it's better. Let me continue to talk and turn off the speaker. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you. Thank you.
Yep.
You can hear me now. Okay. And if you could speak, then I might be able to hear you. Can you speak, somebody?
Yes, okay, can you just repeat your name again, sir?
No. How about now?
Okay, sir.
I'm really not sure what the issue is.
Can
Would
you
it be
hear
better
me
if
okay?
I called in and? Can you hear me okay? Yes, I can.
We're getting some kind of echo coming through on your end.
I'm not really sure what that's about, I'm afraid. I don't know why. Would it be better for me to call in by phone?
Yeah, disconnect and call in by phone. And we'll set this
Yeah, I'll
one
call in by phone right now.
now. Okay, we'll set this one down. We'll come back to you, sir.
Okay.
Okay, we'll now proceed to, we're going to jump ahead on the agenda to item number 14, 25 Brightwood Street. Okay, now, I notice on this one, ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot of people, a lot of deputants scheduled to speak. I would emphasize for those people who have registered to speak is please do not repeat information that we've heard previously. You're just going to, we will have heard that material loud and clear. We don't need to hear it multiple times. Is Mr. Bronskill there?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair.
Yes, I'm Mr. Bronskill. Can I get your full name and address, please?
Yes, thank you, sir. It's David Bronskill, B-R-O-N as in Nancy, S-K-I-L-L. I'm the agent. I'm at Goodman's LLP, 333 Bay Street, Suite 3400, Toronto, Ontario.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bronskill. I just wanted to ask if you've had the opportunity to look at the city planning report dated the 16th of June.
Yes, sir. We have reviewed that extensively. We note the condition at the start, which is acceptable to us.
Yes, okay, thank you very much. We do have quite a few people registered. There's about 20 people registered here to speak. So, Mr. Bronskill, if you could give us a presentation on what you see as the merits of this proposal.
Thank you, sir. I can do that. We had belatedly sent over a presentation this morning that I don't know whether, I know it would be able to put on the screen. I recognize that. I'm not sure whether it's something that the committee would have access to on their own computers, sir.
I don't believe that we have that, sir.
That's fine. I understand, sir. We're all sort of, I think, winding our way through this new virtual world. So I'll be able to do my presentation without available, should there be any architectural questions from the committee as I go through this. We have also reviewed, sir, the submissions that have been posted online as part of this. And frankly, the thrust of my comments, sir, will be largely to ignore some of what in my submission are irrelevant matters from a planning perspective, and instead focus on the planning merits of the application. I would simply note that there are letters of support from members of the community, as well as the local councillor and other elected representatives. But I'm going to focus on the 4 tests, and in particular, the staff report that we believe is a very good summary of the applicable policy regime and the 4 tests to this application. Just as background, the site is located between the 401, part of a neighborhood to the west, the 401 on-ramp, a vacant site for which there's now a development application, and then, as the committee knows, Wilson Avenue. It consists of a vacant lot and 2 lots, each containing a detached dwelling unit. The resulting larger assembly is about 2,663 square meters, and as described in the staff report, uniquely situated for the proposal that is before you. That proposal, sir, and members of the committee, is for a 12-bed hospice care home. You can see the 2 blocks on the site plan, Block A and Block B. Contrary to some of the written submissions, this is not a proposal for a 3-story towering building across the entire site. Block A would contain the 12 hospice beds. It's actually 1-story, 4.45 meters in height, and it's been designed to be separated from the adjacent residential properties to the west by a setback as well as a planted buffer zone. Block B does have 3 stories, 12.75 meters in measured height to the top of the mechanical, but this 3-story form steps back and is located away from the adjacent residential neighborhood. I'm going to quickly go through the 4 tests, but at the outset, just as a legal matter, there is a use variance before you. In my opinion, there is clear case law that the Committee of Adjustment can authorize use variances, but must apply the same 4 tests of the Planning Act, and I will have something to say about that as I go through those 4 tests. First, the OP, as outlined in the staff report, Policy 4.1.1 permits the proposed use. Low-scale institutions, which this is, are noted as playing an important role in the rhythm of daily life in neighborhoods, and staff have provided the opinion that this use is permitted by this policy. Staff then apply Policy 4.1.9 correctly to this site. As the committee well knows, this is actually a slightly different policy than you see for the vast majority of variance cases in neighborhoods, which applies the test in Policy 4.1.5. The tests are a bit broader, speaking to a development being respectful, compatible, ensuring adequate privacy, sunlight, and sky views. And we submit through the design of this with the 2 blocks, the step back, and the separation distances from the homes to the west, that all of that has been achieved, and staff agree that what has resulted is compatible and therefore meets the intent of this policy and that test in the Planning Act. In terms of the zoning bylaw, I would simply note for the use variance, the RD zone permits a number of similar institutional uses subject to conditions that often relate to use-specific performance standards. Those permitted uses include community centers, day nurseries, group homes, places of worship, private home daycare, and seniors community house. This hospice care use is consistent with those permissions and therefore would maintain the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. When it comes to the different setbacks, again, what has been done on this site is to orient and design a building to maximize the setbacks.
Mr. Bronsko, could you, you've
Sure.
got 10 seconds, could you just summarize?
Yes, sir. I'll say 2 things. Just as a technical matter, just so everyone understands, Block A is on the southern portion of the site, which is technically the rear, but we have treated the side as the rear yard to ensure that there's adequate spacing from that western edge of the building, which we think maintains the general intent of the zoning bylaw.
Okay, thank you,
I would
Mr.
then
Bron-
just
Thank you, Mr.
I would just
Bronsko.
conclude. Oh, sorry,
you.
sir. I was going to just conclude. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bronskill. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? Ms. Sankar?
Yes, Mr. Bronskill. So with respect to your conclusion, I just want to be clear. So is it that the staff report that talks a little bit to a couple of variances that they wanted to see addressed, was there anything at all that you were going to address in that at all?
If it would be possible with the assistance of staff just to have the site plan up there again. And through you, Mr. Chair, what the staff report helpfully did is identify that the south down at Brightwood Street is technically the rear yard. And so while there's a 0.5 meter rear yard setback there, that's actually adjacent to the street and not to the rear yards of any homes. What instead has been done, and staff are accepting of this approach and recommended for approval, is you can see setbacks of almost 9 meters next to Block A and a setback of 15.6 meters next to Block B. That's technically the side yard in the zoning bylaw. And so walls there could technically be closer, but it's been treated instead as a rear yard. And that's where there are the private gardens, screened parking, and then a planted buffer area, so that it functions more like a rear yard to rear yard relationship rather than a side yard to rear yard relationship if the zoning bylaw was technically applied. So staff are supportive of that approach, understand why we've done it this way, rather than treating that west as a side yard, instead treating it as a rear yard.
Thank you, Ms. Sankar. Is that the, does that answer your question?
Yes.
Oh, you dropped out on us.
Sorry. Yes, I accept what he's proposing. I understand.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Bronskill.
Sir.
Next on our, one of the deputies speaking on the application is, I have Mr. and Ms., Mr. Zisman and Elena Marshall. Are you there?
Yes, can you hear me? It's just me, Mr. Zisman.
Yes, sir. Can I get your full name and address, please?
Yes, my name is Alex Zisman, and I live on 49 Cadillac Avenue.
Okay, thank you. You have the opportunity to raise your concerns about the application.
Okay. I would like to preface this by saying that I'm Jewish. I'm not unfamiliar with death. I watched my mother die from lung cancer. I work in healthcare. I worked in surgical oncology for 5 years at Princess Margaret Hospital, and I'm not unsympathetic to the cause of a hospice. That I learned about the plan from a neighbor and not the developer didn't really put me in the applicant's corner. And the reality is, most of the people in this neighborhood were not consulted about the plans. Community consultation is important to address concerns and prevent NIMBYism, especially with respect to misconceptions about developments like this. More engagement with the community changes perception and provides educational opportunities. For this reason and others, many of us are seeking an adjournment so that we can all come to a collaborative agreement on how to move forward. I'm happy to have a hospice in the neighborhood, but I don't think the construction proposed is appropriate. We do have a group home here in the area. It looks like a home. I believe that is part of the conditions for a group home in a residential area. It is bound by section 150.15 of the city's bylaws. The staff report says that a hospice is similar to a group home, should the same conditions associated with its use not apply. I also do not understand how section 4.1.9 of the official plan applies here and allows the construction to get around the strict prevailing building type restrictions in 4.1.5. As far as I can tell, 25 Brightwood Street is comprised of 3 typical housing lots. The foundations buried under the lots are single detached housing foundations, not those of a church or library or school. The lack of development on the site is not because of anything unique about the lots, but because of the mud river that runs underneath. and both 3 Cadillac Avenue and 5 Cadillac Avenue had existing detached single-family homes on them. In the developer's variance application, they state the assembled lot is irregular, and while the assembled lot is irregular, that is only because of the way the developer has assembled the lots. The orientation of 3 Cadillac Avenue, 5 Cadillac Avenue, and the lots on 25 Brightwood Street, lots 710, 711, and 712, are typical of the lot pattern and sizes located in the neighborhood. The official plan states policies 4.1.9 and 4.1.10 are not to be interpreted so as to encourage, facilitate, or justify the assembly of lots within a graphic neighborhood that adhere to the prevailing lot pattern. Can lot consolidations appropriate the intent of section 4.1.9? And is this development's intent consistent with an infill development, which is to increase housing density, while this plan does the opposite and destroys 2 houses? What I do know is that without a proper sunshade study, without a traffic study, there is no objective measure on which to evaluate the impact this structure will have on the community's more pressing concerns. However, a 55% increase of the site coverage, along with a 60% increase in building height, may invariably lead to physical conditions that are fundamentally incompatible with the existing built context and zoning for adjacent and nearby residential properties. The staff report's claims that such major imbalances across all performance measures undoubtedly demonstrates appropriate height, massing, and scale relative to zoning permissions, in my view, lacks merit. The proposed development is out of character with the prevailing building type of the neighborhood. It does not reinforce and respect the established physical character of the neighborhood, and it does not direct intensification to an area that has been identified to accommodate change, but rather directs it to a neighborhood, which is a physically stable area. While some change is anticipated over time, the key policy of the official plan is to ensure that new development will respect and reinforce the existing physical character of the neighborhood. It is not appropriate to permit lot frontages, lot areas, building heights, and lot coverage that would represent a departure from the existing character of the neighborhood. This is an area characterized by single detached dwellings, with an established lot size and configuration in a neighborhood's designation. I can appreciate all the work that went into the building's design and plan. It is a beautiful building, but it doesn't fit in the neighborhood, and it isn't considerate to its neighbors. Consider that every disruptive element faces people's houses. The generator, the
Sir,
parking
you have
lot,
30
the main
seconds. Can you
entrance.
summarize?
I'm almost done. The passenger pickup and drop off. None of these face the 401.
Sir, you have to
The-
summarize. Time is up.
I'm literally, yeah. At the end of the day, there are legitimate concerns with the site plan, the structure, and its impact on the neighborhood. The community should have an opportunity to express their concerns, and the
Sir, can you-
developer should
sir-
have an opportunity to address them. For the sake of fairness, you should uphold the neighborhood protection policies of the
Okay,
official
thank
plan.
you, sir. Your 5 minutes.
Reject this application or grant us an
Sir,
adjournment.
your 5 minutes are up. Thank you. Does the
you.
speaker, does the committee have any questions of the speaker? Being none, okay, thank you. The next person we have on our deputant is Eric Friedman. Are you there? Mr. Friedman, are you there? He's not there. Okay, we'll take him off the list. Okay. I have the next speaker is a Mihaela Dragici. I hope I've said that right. Mihaela Dragici.
Mr. Chair, they are not present. The ratepayer is not present.
Next speaker is Adi Rubanowitz.
Yeah. Yes, hi, I'm here with my husband, David,
Yes.
and if he can, he'll
Yes.
speak.
We're having trouble hearing you. Can you,
David and A.D. Rubanowitz. So I'm going to speak on behalf of us.
okay, thank you. Can we get your full name and address, please?
David Rubanowitz, 9 Cadillac.
Okay, thank you, sir. You have the opportunity to express your views on the, on this development, but I warn you, sir, do not repeat stuff that we've already heard. We don't need to hear it twice, okay? Because there are a lot of
Right.
speakers here on this item.
As a matter of fact, I think I'm going to make it a lot shorter than the 5 minutes because Alan did a fantastic job. Alex Zisman did a fantastic job really reflecting what we felt. It's really a wonderful organization. I also would embrace the idea of a hospice. And the question is whether we have this organization in our neighborhood. And I affirm to his idea of adjourning it so we could have these recommendations. One thing that I think he left out, I'm, primarily just a family man. I have 6 children here, right around the corner. And this was a big issue for us because we came here to this little cul-de-sac, assuming that it would stay a residential, little beautiful cul-de-sac, and have our children comfortably run around, ride our bikes, and I'm outdoors. You could see it's really beautiful jogging track. You see everyone walking around, and there's very little traffic and there's very little issue. There's also a building that's proposed to be coming up. This can be the beginning of one enterprise in this community. There's a building on Wilson. It's a 13-floor building. Also, once a non-residential comes into our neighborhood, very plausibly, it's going to be viewed as a whole different environment here. And the driveway will be let out onto Cadillac very possibly. And the traffic, it's only one way in, would cause so much, especially for hospice where you have 24/7 people working all the time around the clock, constantly beside, so there's, and the visitors and things of that nature. We didn't do a real official traffic report, but it certainly would change our comfort level just living here. Otherwise, we really would want to adjourn to figure out ways how it's possible to make it comfortable with us, and everything else that he said I affirm to, and therefore I'm going to stop short, let other people speak.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? No, thank you very much, sir. I will go back to Mr. Friedman. Are you there? Mr. Eric Friedman, are you there? Okay. We'll go to the next person on the list. Toyin Tan Tran, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Yes, thank you, madam. You're on the line. We'll listen to your concerns about the application. Again, please
Yes,
don't
thank you.
please don't repeat material we've already heard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I think Mr. Alex and Eddie have covered a lot there. And most of my concern also covers the variance, the 10, 3 out of 10 variants to the zoning bylaw. I just like to know what the proposer have to address about it. So one of it was about the hospice care home is not permitted in the residential zone, and this is a residential zone. So, Mr. You could maybe help me understand what the bylaw mean in comparison to the actual law of the province, the law of the federal. Does that mean that it has to be followed?
Well, madam, did you have the opportunity to read the city planning report that's with the file that's online with the city, dated June the 16th, because it's all explained in there. Did you have an opportunity? Did you have an opportunity?
Yes, I have read the 2 mail that was sent to me, and it's very brief. It just mentioned the requirements of those bylaws. So from what my understanding is those bylaws supposed to be followed, right?
Okay, well, certainly, madam, I'm not going to repeat what the report says, but it's very clear for that basically
that should explain everything. The bylaw clearly say that this hospice care home is not permitted in the residential.
No, that's not what they're saying, madam. That's not what the report says. The report says, if you read it, while the RD zone of zoning bylaw 569/2013 predominantly permits detached dwellings, the zone also permits a range of other uses, including institutional uses such as group home and seniors community house, and they're considering the hospice the same thing.
Okay, I don't believe I have that document there.
It's in the committee's documents, madam, and it's online.
As I mentioned earlier, thank you for the opportunity. I have I see the concern that I have been addressed on these bylaw 10 variants
Okay, thank you,
So-
madam. I'll just ask,
addressed properly.
okay, does the
Thank you.
committee have any questions of the speaker? Okay, thank you, madam. We'll go back. Is Eric Friedman, are you there? No, he's not there. So we're not going to go back to this gentleman again. Okay. Looking for a Ms. Heather Jones Otazo. Are you there?
President, I'm
Yes, hello, madam. Are you there? Can I get your full name and address, please?
yes. My name is Heather Jones Otazo, and I reside at 44 Luverne Avenue.
Okay, thank you. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good day to the committee and audience present. I'm here today speaking on behalf of my family. We have 2 young children and 1 dog who love to play outside and to stay active. We're long-standing residents of the neighborhood, having lived here for over 15 years. We love our neighborhood pocket, the one that borders Deloraine, Luverne, Cadillac, Brightwood Avenues, and we'd love to live in Toronto. I'm here today to support the request for an adjournment to the variance request. The request includes just too many variances as compared to the original request and should not be supported as it stands. I understand that there's a network of community members led by our local Armour Gardens Community Association who are willing to sit down with the developer and to negotiate for changes in good faith. I request the adjournment so that this negotiation can be possible. One of the concerns that I would like to highlight is the reduced recreational and green space that it will create in our neighborhood, given the intensification of development along Wilson Avenue. As the committee is likely aware, there are numerous ongoing developments north of Wilson, north along Wilson, and continuing west until Wilson subway station. As a result of these developments along Wilson, including the proposed development, the population density in our neighborhood pocket is increasing exponentially. These thousands of new residents will now be sharing our remaining green space and recreational areas. Currently, the only space available to residents by walking distance are the Champlain, Delahaye, and Touraine parkettes and the Brightwood Loop, and these are all used. In fact, because of the lack of space, residents already encroach onto the schoolyards of the private schools neighboring Champlain Parkette and along Champlain. We need walking distance access to green space and recreational space with mature trees. Families in our neighborhood need space close by to walk, to bike with our kids, to play basketball, to walk their dogs, to jog, and to get outside. The existing space isn't enough, and it's only going to worsen with sprawling developments and thousands more people. Access to green space and recreation is extremely important for residents to maintain well-being and mental health. Green space and recreational areas have a huge positive impact on quality of life and are a must-have, in my opinion. I'm deeply troubled by the extensive list of variances requested for the development, in particular by the fact that the development is going to include the destruction of a number of mature trees on the lot, specifically around the 2 residential vacant lots that were purchased on Cadillac. Trees take decades to grow, and it's so important to maintain the tree canopy in our neighborhood and in Toronto for many reasons, including reducing our heating and cooling costs, helping to improve the city's air quality, reducing noise, and many other ecological services. If the trees are torn down, where will mature trees be available to us locally? I'm also really troubled by the request to increase the maximum lot coverage or the building footprint to 46%, which is above the 30% maximum, and which excludes the parking lots in the calculation. The requested variance would not only permanently convert our residential area to a commercial one, it's also requesting permission for a massive concrete sprawl onto our very little remaining green space. I'm opposed to sprawling development in our pocket. So to summarize, I'm opposed to the multiple variances that are requested for the development. I've highlighted my concerns, which center around the increasing intensification and population density of the neighborhood, putting pressure on our green spaces and our spaces to recreate. I'm confident that through our community association, we can negotiate with the with the developer in good faith on our behalf. I hope that my concerns provide support to the committee to request an adjournment and to provide time to negotiate. If that's not possible and a decision is truly required today, I urge the committee to reject the proposal. Thanks for the opportunity to speak today.
Okay, thank you, madam. Is it safe to say that your preference is that this land stays as green space?
No, that's not my preference, but I'm troubled by the large number of variances that would expand, especially that would expand the development and to take up more green space than it would need to.
Okay, so is there an objection to the actual use as a hospice?
In that particular location, yes. While I do understand the overall community pressure to situate a hospice, yeah, it's my opinion it shouldn't be in that little pocket.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Any questions of the speaker? Ms. Sankar?
I do have a question through you, Mr. Chair. Seeing that I've heard a number of applicants asking to adjourn or defer the application before we go through hearing a large number of other testimonials, I wanted to know if through you could ask the applicant if that's something he's willing to do.
I can, yeah, I'll put Mr. Bronskill on the, Mr. Bronskill, are you there?
I am, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Bronskill, would you be, we've got a number of people here seem to be asking for a deferral so that you can meet with the neighbors. Would you be prepared to do that? Although I don't want to get, okay. Would you be prepared to do that?
I'll be very quickly, sir. The answer is we're not prepared to defer, but we are prepared to have constructive discussions. It's a bit unfair to suggest that the hospice hasn't done any consultation. They've circulated a letter to all of the neighbors. They attended the AGM of the Resident Association. They've also attended a meeting facilitated by the local councillor. I'm not sure what else they should have done in terms of community consultation. We are certainly prepared to have continued discussions after this committee hearing. But I'm also not prepared to accept an adjournment for such discussions when the speakers repeatedly say that the use is not supported in this location. I'm not sure what an adjournment would accomplish if they're not even prepared to support the use on this location. So one, we've already had consultation, and two, I'm not sure it would be productive, but we are prepared to listen after this hearing and listen to constructive proposals.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bronskill. If I could just summarize then, you've already had consultation with the neighbors, you've met with the Ratepayers Association, I guess there appear to have been consultations through the counselor's office, is that correct?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Okay, so there's already been extensive community consultation. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, in my view it is.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Sankar, the applicant is not prepared to adjourn the application, so we'll proceed with the deputants.
Thank you, sir.
Yep, thank you. Ms. Adirati?
Yes, I just want to give a comment for the previous presenter. So she was talking about the preserving trees. We don't have any condition from urban forestry in our this application.
Ms. Jones-Atazo, are you still low? Are you still there?
Hi, I'm here, yes.
Yes.
So sorry, yes.
So one of your concern was regarding the trees and you prefer to preserve it. So we generally get a report from urban forestry. For this particular application, we didn't have any, we didn't receive anything and we don't have any condition.
Okay, well, to me, that sounds like a bit of a gap because if you drive by the site, you'll see there are a number of mature trees.
I expect, Ms. Adirati, that the forestry conditions will be covered off through the notice of approval conditions, through the site plan approval process.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Otazo. Next speaker on the list is Catherine Kazan-Watterson. Watterson, are you there?
Mr. Chair, just before everybody continues, if I can have a couple seconds.
Mr. Bartolo, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. No, I've heard it mentioned a couple times that there's a concern that this proposed use is a commercial use, which is going to bring further commercial intensification to the area. I don't think that's accurate. What's being proposed is within the bounds, or what's being argued here is within the bounds of the RD development, and it's not a commercial use that's moving into the neighborhood. Just so, just to clarify some of the comments from the previous.
Thank you, Mr. Bartolo. And I'll make sure that Mr. Bronskill addresses that issue when he sums up at the end. Ms. Kazan-Watterson, are you there?
Yes.
Yes, madam, you have the opportunity to state your views on the application.
Can you hear me?
Please
you hear
proceed. Can I get your full name and address, please?
Can you hear me?
Yes, can I get your full name and address?
Okay. My name is Dr. Catherine Watterson. I reside at 26 Cadillac Avenue. My house is located on the corner of Cadillac and Laurentia Avenue. I am on the block that will be directly affected by the proposed development. Before I make my submissions, I'd like to make a brief comment to the committee that I do not have a problem with the idea of a hospice. I just feel that the proposed plan is wrong for our neighborhood. We're all here today with the hope of collaborating with the applicant and trying to come to an agreement that would work for everyone. Unfortunately, we were given little notice to evaluate our options, so therefore we were asking the committee to adjourn, obviously. However, it seems that the committee is not prepared to do so. Then I respectfully submit that the requested variances be rejected, as these waivers fundamentally impact every aspect of this project. The things I would like to focus on are two issues: the negative impact to the neighborhood caused by the increased traffic, and two, the community feedback. So I want to tell you, we moved here about 20 years ago with the intention of raising our family here. The current situation is that I am fearful of my daughter riding her bike to the playground on Champlain due to the ever-increasing traffic on our streets, and my son going for a jog. My house is located at the corner of Cadillac and Laurentia Avenue. This increase in traffic will have its most direct impact on our house, as everything must go past my house. It is one way in and one way out on Cadillac, so you have to go past my house to get to Brightwood Street. This development will turn our quiet residential cul-de-sac into a main thoroughfare. And as we have no sidewalks, this is dangerous to both us and our children. The increase in traffic will be substantial, with visitors, doctors, PSWs, coroners, nurses, of which there'll be 3 shifts, service vehicles, and garbage trucks, just to list a few. And to our knowledge, there have been no traffic studies done to determine how this will impact our area. Our concerns directly relates to the city's Vision Zero initiative, which we understand is to reduce the risk to pedestrians. And in terms of what Mr. Bronska was talking about, we were not adequately notified. Unfortunately, only the people on Brightwood got the notification about the variances. None of us received anything, and I just want to be very clear about that. And with regard to my second point, I was approached by Lindy Gardner about my knowledge of the proposed hospice and all the changes to the design of the site, none of which I was aware. Together, we decided to create a petition to find out if other people shared our concerns. We visited approximately 145 homes to get signatures from over 110 unique addresses. We then created a survey to get some data on what people wanted for the area. The survey was then circulated to the community. What we learned was that people were aware of the proposed hospice, but they were both surprised and concerned by the scale of the development. To date, we have received over 70 responses from people living in the area, with more coming in every day, including everyone on Brightwood, whom this will impact most significantly. We will need more time to fully analyze the data, but the trends emerging from the data indicate that our community wants buildings in this area to be 2 stories or less, and that these buildings should fit in with the look and feel of the neighborhood. Although many of us did not object to the original project, it has grown beyond that scope. We are a warm and welcoming community. We look out for each other. We communicate. We collaborate. We are willing to talk, but we need an open forum to have this discussion. This proposed building is asking for exceptions to almost every rule that applies to their property to make their proposed development work. the most significant being the zoning change for their proposed use. Please let me be clear, this is not a backyard issue. This project is too large for the site, both vertically and horizontally, and has not been studied significantly to justify the variances requested. Given the scope of these variances, we feel that the community should have been fully informed and consulted. Given the changes, it is our firm belief that the surrounding community has not been given the opportunity to provide constructive feedback on this project. Please adjourn this hearing and send the applicant back to work with our community. Our safety concerns have not been addressed, and we owe it to our community to provide safe streets for our children. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of the speaker? Okay, thank you, madam. Next speaker on the list is an Ed Foster. Mr. Foster, are you there? Mr. Foster, are you there? Oh, Mr.
Can you hear me?
Mr. Foster, can I get your name and address, please?
Ed Foster, 21 Cadillac Avenue.
Okay, thank you. You have the
Come through.
opportunity to make your views known on the on the application. Again, please don't repeat stuff we've already heard.
Okay, I have some stuff written down, but I will skip through it and it'll be shorter very quickly here. My name is Ed Foster, and I'm living at 160 feet from the proposed hospice. The information received came from neighbors who live closer. This is a sizable institutional medical facility, and I'm concerned it will overpower the neighborhood. The first letter I received about the hospice was in November 2018. The announcement was noting a single house sale at 3 Cadillac Avenue and is described the vision of a residential hospice tucked into a residential scaled building. We know the size, so I frequently walk around the neighborhood, the streets, and envision this plan. I know you have 10 items, but I only want to talk about one because 2 have already been spoken at. The required minimum rear yard setback. Your city has a request of 21.1 meters, which is 68 feet. And just looking at this, the proposed setback is 18 inches. So we really do see a big grasp of the building here, what it would take. So let me just down, and as an owner on Cadillac Avenue, my family would be directly affected by this increased traffic. And I personally believe that a larger facility would have frequent police visits, and there would be maintenance vehicles. And I'm a firm believer that between recycling and waste, special disposal vehicles, that there would be biohazardous and other items that are not consistent with traveling in the neighborhood. So I summarize by also saying I have experience with a minor variance from the Committee of North York when building an addition, and my building was at 31.5%, and I needed my neighbors as allies, not as opposition. And I understand that there's others in the neighborhood would like to collaborate with the hospice to come to a good solution for the whole neighborhood, and that's what I support. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of the speaker? There being none, thank you, Mr. Foster. Our next speaker is Mr. Kevin Keynes. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Sir, can I get your name and address, please?
My name is Kevin Keynes. I'm from 41 Brightwood Street.
Okay.
Now, my property is, sorry, go ahead.
You've heard the previous speakers, so again, I'll say the same caveat. Please don't repeat stuff we've already heard.
Okay, so therefore I'll keep it very, very short. Now, my property is immediately adjacent to the proposed development, and therefore I will be very significantly impacted by the development. Now, one of my major concerns is the area has an on-the-ground river or stream. Now, someone alluded to it earlier, Now, that water on the ground is essentially being pushed towards all the neighbors. Now, my house, right now, I'm in the middle of a construction project, and I had to excavate the basement. When I excavated the basement, my pipes, my drain pipes, are actually submerged in water. Now, I was actually looking for a way to upload the actual photos of my pipes in water to this committee, but I could not figure it out on this application, on this app. Anyhow, so what my concern is, the large scale development is going to displace a large amount of water on the ground.
Sir, you can speak to the committee about drainage issues, but the committee has no jurisdiction over lot drainage. The applicant, if it gets approved, as part of his notice of approval conditions, he'll have to submit a lot grading plan that shows that all his stormwater is managed on his own property. So you can, telling us those comments about drainage has no impact on our decision. The applicant has to submit a whole new lot drainage plan anyway. So the whole drainage will change so that it's not going to affect your property.
Okay, then therefore I'll conclude as that.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of the speaker? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gaines. Is there a Maria Guchina there?
Mr. Chair, Maria is not signed in.
Okay, so we'll take her off. I have the next speaker is David Toledano and Lisa Henry. Are either of those people there?
Yeah, I had a feeling if you registered, you were supposed to ask a question.
I'm having trouble hearing you. Can you speak up, please?
David and Lisa, go ahead.
Hello? David Toledano or Lisa Henry, are you there? Okay, I'm sorry, I have to cut you off. Nassos Styrianis, are you there? Nassos Styrianis, are you there?
Mr. Chair, Nassos is not present.
Okay. Next speaker is Terrence Endo. Are you there?
Yes, it's Terrence Endo at
Yes,
36 Brightwood.
Yes, Mr. Endo, can I get your name and address, please?
Yes, actually, it's Terrence Endo and Audrey Leslie at 36 Brightwood Street.
Yes, could you please, you have the floor. You can state your views on this application.
Thank you. I've heard the previous discussions and points, and fortunately, they've been already voiced a lot of my concerns. But I'll just quickly say about the rezoning again, and that the fact that with the rezoning, we feel that there's going to be an opening for more activity for the non-residential developments, and the traffic flow from our corner where we are at 36 is at the rear parking, near the rear parking lot. Like we're on the other side of the Brightwood Street. However, there will be more activity coming around, even though the main entrance is at Cadillac. But obviously, the flow would be going around the corner to get out of the area through either Cadillac or Brightwood. So our concern is that there would be some impact with the support vehicles and the support staff for the location. So that's the main thing is the opening up of the of further development and not going in line with the residential type of area that we do have. So that's basically what I have. In light also the other points that were brought up earlier. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of the speaker? Being none, thank you very much, sir. Next speaker we have is a Mr. Cam Wheel, W-E-A-L-E. Mr. Wheel, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
Sir, could you have the opportunity to state your views on the development? Please don't repeat stuff we've already heard.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and committee members. Obviously, I'm going to have to modify my presentation a little bit. I'll try not to repeat anything. I live at 14 Laverne Avenue, approximately 3 blocks from the proposed location. Today, I would like to focus my submission on 2 things: the interaction between the applicant and the neighborhood, and the issue the committee needs to consider in evaluating the applicant's minor variation request. Whether the requested variances maintain the general intent and purpose of the city's zoning code or bylaws. With respect to my first point, I have discussed plans to meet with the community in 10 email discussions with the applicant since December of 2018. No specific community meetings have ever been arranged other than the first meeting that was held at our 2018 AGM. Now, with respect to my second point regarding the bylaws, the zoning code designates all the private properties on residential streets as RD, residential detached. The bylaws set strict limits on the size, height, and footprint of structures on these lots. Also, what uses of the property can be made. All this is to protect the residential character of the neighborhood, one that has the makeup of detached single-family homes. This project, as proposed, is seeking variances for all of these bylaws: change of use, change of height, change of setbacks, change of footprint, effectively negating the bylaws and their purpose. These are out of keeping with the physical character of the neighborhood. It would be less objection if fewer variances were sought if there was a respect for the character of the neighborhood as it is, not as the applicant wants it to be. This sets a dangerous precedent for future developments in the neighborhood. I've looked at other hospices in Toronto: Kensington, Baycrest, Sunnybrook, West Park, Dorothy Lay. Those of the same size design as this proposal are on medical campuses. When in a neighborhood, they're smaller scale and look like any other building in the neighborhood. This current proposal appears to take the design of
Sir, with respect,
Yep.
sir, with respect, we've heard all that. Have you got something new to tell us?
Yeah, I will skip my summary because you've heard it all from all the other neighbors. But I do take issue with Mr. Bronskill's contention that the applicant has reached out to the community. In fact, they have not. There were 15 people in attendance at their original presentation, which was our Armour Gardens annual general meeting. They have, as I said, despite my 10 email conversations, they have failed to connect with the community to discuss any of it. And this plan has changed since their presentation. It's become much larger than their original presentation in December of 2018. On that basis, I have to request that these variances be rejected because it seems to be their position that they have no intention of listening to the community.
Okay, thank you, sir. I'll just ask the committee, does the committee have any questions?
Mr. Chair, is there a counselor online that we could probably hear from first in terms of their view?
I'm sorry, Ms. Sankar, what was that?
Is there a counselor for the area online that we could possibly hear their view ahead of anyone else?
Pardon me? Is he online?
Because we've heard a lot of the residents, and the stories the narratives are repetitive.
Yeah,
so
that's a good point, Ms.
We have an
Sankar.
understanding. I wouldn't mind hearing what the counselor has to say if there
Certainly.
is a counselor on.
Let me just ask and see if he's here. Councillor Pasternak, are you here?
Yes, Councillor Pasternak has been watching,
thank you.
listening, and ready to speak.
Yes, sir, if you could please, we've had a lot of questions with respect to what has been termed by deputants as a lack of consultation with the public on this proposal. And since I'm sure you've had your feet to the fire on this for a while, so if you could give us your perspective on this.
That specific question, or should I do my presentation?
Yeah, you can certainly do your presentation, sir.
Okay. So, Mr. Chair, committee members, of course, residents of Ward 6, members of the applicant team. As introduced, my name is James Pasternak. I'm the local city councilor in the area where this application is being made. Obviously, it's been an honor to represent this community for the last 10 years. I am lending my support to the variances before you pertaining to the application submitted by the Neshama Hospice to construct the new end-of-life facility. My staff and I have attended public consultations, of which there were 2. We've met with the applicant. We've heard important feedback from the residents and reviewed staff reports. I am then convinced that this project will be an important one, while minimally disrupting the neighborhood to the west. It is open to all, regardless of their faith. A project of this nature will have a positive transformational effect on the seniors who reside there. It aligns with the Toronto Senior Strategy and our city's vision as a place of high purpose, which gives back to older generations who have built Toronto. The facility is open to all, as I mentioned, and ultimately, if we are to learn anything of the tragic consequences of the pandemic, we should support this facility. The site is isolated from the rest of the community. It abuts the 401 highway system to the south and east, a vacant lot to the north. In addition, the requested use for the site can be considered similar in use and less disruptive than uses like a group home, which are potential uses, day nurseries, or places of worship. This is the softest use we can provide for the use of these lands and acts of protection against the community. At the same time, I want to say to the local community that my office will work with you for traffic management to ensure the construction phase is done with the utmost respect in the neighborhood. I will meet with the owners of the vacant property to the north and see if we can get construction access and staging areas on that site. And I am committed to animating the green space across the street from this site that will continue to be a parkette. We will continue city investments in your neighborhood to preserve the character and protect homeowners. The project is an ongoing discussion. Part of the problem here, the objections that are being raised, and some of them are legitimate, is there's been an enormous misunderstanding of this proposal in the community. I was stopped on the street the other day, and the accusation was that the applicant was going to rezone the entire residential neighborhood to commercial, something that, of course, is not possible and not true. The proposal before you will set a shining standard that aims towards changing the way end of life takes place, setting an example of compassion for others to follow, which we at the city cherish. Staff have written a positive report supporting the variances and the application, and I'm also proud to say that my federal counterpart, MP Michael Levitt, and my provincial counterpart, MPP Roman Babar, have both submitted letters of support for this application. The variances are reasonable, they're minor, and the hospice that will result will be a lasting legacy for the area and Toronto, and of course, I lend my support to it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. I'll just ask, does the committee have any questions of the councillor? No, thank you very much, sir, for your time.
You're very welcome.
I do
I'm
have
sorry,
one question, sir.
Oh, just
Sorry,
a moment,
Mr.
just a moment, Councillor. We have one question. Ms. Sanker?
I'm here, yeah.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to find out, most of these folks are asking for a deferral. You've indicated, and a couple by their own admission have indicated that, look, we have had letters, there have been community consultations. I just wanted to, ask you if you thought a deferral would be something that could help the community at this time, or do you feel that there has been adequate community consultation?
Well, we had an open house in January of 2000, and the applicant attended the AGM in November of 2019, November of 2019, and we had planning staff there to answer questions. We've spent an enormous amount of time listening to the community. I was on the phone all morning. We took a deferral option to the applicant, and they decided that it was not supportable by their team. I always say negotiate, but they feel they've taken this as far as they can, and they've declined to, and it's the responsibility of my office to express the views of the community, but also to support what's good for the city and good planning. So the applicant has felt the request to defer is too late, and that the requests to change the plan are too dramatic. But we can
Okay, thank you,
continue to talk.
Thank you, Councillor. Ms. Sankar, does that address your?
Yes, can you hear me? That's fine.
Yes, we can
Thank
hear
you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Councillor, very much. We'll now proceed to the next person we have on our list, an Alan Grin, G-R-Y-N. Are you there, sir?
Mr. Chair and committee, Alan is not present.
Okay. Next person on the list, Charles Rosenberg. Are you there?
Yes, but I'm in support of the project. I'm the.
Hang on, sir.
I'm
Can
part of the architectural.
Sir, slow down a bit.
Yes.
Can we get your name and address, please?
Yes, it's Charles Rosenberg.
And your address?
And the address 401 Richmond Street West,
Okay,
Toronto.
you have the opportunity to make your views known on this application.
Well, I'm in support of the project, and I'm the partner in the architectural firm that's actually done the design of the building. And so I don't
Okay,
know
so,
if I really
sir,
have...
can I ask, are you the architect on this project?
Yes, I am the architect on this project.
Yeah, so your agent speaks for you, Mr. Bronskill. Okay, so
correct. So I think you've put me on the wrong list. Yes.
Yeah, we don't need to hear from you. Thank you.
Okay.
Next person on the list is Mary Gardner. Are you there, madam? Ms. Gardner, are you there? Ms. Gardner, are you there? Mary Gardner? Mary Gardner is not there. Next person on the list is Betty Enta, E-N-T-A. Are you there, Ms. Enta? Ms. Enta, are you there?
Yes.
Oh, thank you, Ms. Enta. Finally got a hold of you. If you have the opportunity to make your views known on this project, madam, again, please don't repeat stuff we've already heard.
Oh, no, I won't. My name is Betty Enta. I live at 47 Laverne Avenue, which is kind of the opposite end of our little community. I simply want to say
Madam,
to you,
just a second.
Yes.
Slow down a bit. Did we get your address?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm sorry. Please proceed.
Okay. I live at 47 Laverne Avenue, which is on the opposite end. I'm on the west side of our little community, Armour Gardens. I simply want to say that after listening to my neighbors and my community, I believe that you should vote to adjourn, to allow the people who live in that area, including myself, because when you affect one part of our community, because we're so small, you affect us all. The people at my end are very concerned about what you're doing, even though technically we don't really see it until we go down there, which of course we do. So I won't take your time. I just simply want to tell you that there is support from a larger area of our community, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, madam. Any questions of the speaker? No, thank you. Next speaker is Henry Lasar, L-A-S-A-R. Mr. Lasar, are you there?
Hello?
Mr. Lasar?
Yeah, hello.
Yes, we can hear you, sir, barely. Mr. Lassar, are
my
you there?
name Vesna Lazar.
Can I get your name and address, please?
My name is Vesna, Vesna. Last name Lazar, Lazar. I live in 43 Brightwood Street. And I am very much opposed of this building. That will be just behind my backyard. You said the committee does not concern about water, about floods. So I know there is underground water.
Sir, I don't know if you were listening in previously, but the committee doesn't deal with drainage issues.
Yes,
The
that's what
applicant
you
is
said.
making a whole new site plan application, and part of that is that he has to submit a lot drainage plan, and that lot drainage plan has to show that all his stormwater is managed on his own property so that it doesn't impact adjoining properties. So that's part of the site plan approval process. Okay, so you can talk all you want about drainage, but it's not particularly relevant at this stage. It's a new building, it will have a whole new lot drainage plan.
So if I lose everything in my basement, like it happened 3 times, it's okay for you people. Anyway, my concern is to changing zone and traffic, water pressure, and the building will be put a big shade on my backyard. And if you go deep in your heart, would you like to have something, a building like this just behind your property? I'm compassionate. I know I'm for an institution like this, but not in residential area. Am I supposed to sing happy birthday to my grandson if I know that somebody is dying just a few meters away? Am I going to sit on my balcony and drink coffee and thinking maybe somebody is saying goodbye to his mother and father? That's why people don't build this in residential area. We want to be like a neighbors. I like green spot that's already
Okay, thank you.
I don't want to repeat that.
Okay, thank you, sir. So it's safe to summarize and say that you're opposed to the application?
Very much.
Okay, thank you.
100%.
Thank you.
I'm
Any questions of the
living-
speaker? There being none, thank you. Thank you, sir. Now, our next speaker is an Elsie Friedman. Are you there? Ms. Friedman, are you there? Ms. Friedman? We'll take her off. Next speaker is Vicky Teitzen. T-I-I-T.
Vicky Tietzen, 14 Cadillac Avenue.
Yes, thank you, madam. If you could,
Okay.
if you could give us your views on the application.
I know your spiel. So I agree with all the comments from the previous speakers. I don't agree with Mr. Pasternak. I did not vote for him, and I will not vote for him. And my issue is about the traffic. The parking lot for the hospice is directly across the street from me, and there's going to be lots of traffic. And the children across the street, they're all under 7 years old. They drive their bicycles in place. So my issue is the traffic. And then if there's an accident on the highway or someplace, so then they drive off Wilson, come past in a convoy, past my house, go around the corner on Brightwood, and then they go out again onto Cadillac, onto Wilson, because there's no entrance or into Bathurst Street. So it's, my concern is the traffic, and I don't like the hospice, the 3 floors. That's my issue.
You understand, ma'am, it's what the use is. It's a hospice. It's not. It is not a high traffic generator.
It is. If you live, I live right across the street. You are welcome to come and have coffee with me, and then you can see if there's an accident on the highway or on wherever. So they're on Wilson and they want to go to Bathurst. They drive by 14 Cadillac Avenue, go around the bend there onto Brightwood, out again onto Laurentia, and then they have to wait to get onto Wilson. So it is heavy if there is an accident.
Okay, thank you, madam. Any questions of the speaker? There being none, thank you, madam. And the last speaker we have registered is a Tamara Weingust. Madam, are you there?
Here?
Madam,
I am here.
Yes, madam, if I could get your name and address, please.
Absolutely. It is Tamara Weingust. I am at 24 Laurentia Crescent.
Okay, thank you, madam. If you want to give us your views on the proposal?
Yes, absolutely. And I just wanted to start off by thanking the committee for listening to as many submissions as there have been today. I have no problems with the hospice. It is a good and needed service. The proposal that's been put forward comes from a good place, but this is the wrong plan for this particular property. There can be a right plan, and myself and others in the neighborhood, as you have heard, would like to form a working group with the applicant to collaborate in good faith to arrive at a plan that will work. Both Mr. Pasternak and the applicant were made aware of this prior to the hearing, as was our MPP, Mr. Roman Baber, and that an adjournment would be requested by many people in the neighborhood. Mr. Pasternak has also signaled his desire to help facilitate discussions between the neighborhood and the applicant, regardless of the outcome of this hearing. It's been frustrating that direct and productive discussions have not yet happened, but we are here now and we are willing to speak. So we are therefore again I'm repeating the request for an adjournment so that these discussions can happen. However, if the committee is not prepared to adjourn, then I respectfully submit that the requested variances be rejected. Before moving into a discussion of why the variances are not minor, I just wanted to touch on a couple of points. First, I wanted to respond to some assertions made by Mr. Pasternak. First of all, with respect to hospice, it is not strictly a seniors issue. It is a terminal illness issue. This affects people of all ages. Second, our experience with COVID is that a lower density medical facility is preferable to reduce the transmission of communicable diseases. The third point is that the green space across the street from the site to the south has a generator and is less than 10 feet wide. It is between the street and the noise barrier to the 401. Fourth, the neighborhood has not communicated what changes it wants. We are still gathering data from the survey that was mentioned earlier by Catherine Watterson during these submissions, and that with respect to the general meeting and the neighborhood consultations that Mr. Pasternak and the applicant had spoken to, there are many reasons that individuals do not go. There are barriers in the community. Not everybody has English as a first language. Not everybody has the ability to secure childcare and to take off work if they work night shifts to go to these meetings. So it can be difficult in those types of monolithic forums to have views heard and to feel like you have had your views heard. As you heard from Ms. Watterson, the neighborhood is now making a huge effort in doing direct consultations with the neighbors. We have the survey, we are crunching the data, and we are happy to sit down with the applicant, Mr. Pasternak, and any other stakeholders to share that data and come to a constructive solution. My next point with respect to some of the letters of support that were filed in respect of this minor variance application, many of them do not come from this area. And they do not speak substantively to the 4 points of the test that this committee must consider in whether or not to grant the variance. So they should be granted little, if any, weight. My next very brief point is that with my registration, I submitted a map of the neighborhood, which I'm hoping somebody can bring up on screen. Thank you, Brendan. Yep, there it is. So you can see colored red. That is the proposed site to the right side of the screen. It's about a half acre. The properties colored in blue are those that have signed the survey that Catherine mentioned. And since this map has been submitted, another dozen or so properties have signed onto that survey. So you can see that there is not critical community support for the plan as proposed. It is in fact very much the opposite. I wanted to touch on why the variances are not minor, which is one of the points, one of the 4 points that the committee needs to consider. But as I am running short on time, I just wanted to speak specifically to the setback issue. I want to highlight that on page 5 of the city planning report, there appears to be an error. The rear yard setback under the bylaws is supposed to be 21.1 meters, which is mentioned earlier in the report, not 7.5. So if the applicant is taking the position that the front of the property is Cadillac and the rear of the property is what abuts the other properties on Brightwood, with this orientation, all of the proposed setbacks fall well outside the parameters. The front, which will be on Cadillac, is proposed to be 6 meters, which is down from 7.4.
Madam, can you summarize, please?
Yeah. Absolutely. The one that I wanted to touch on was the rear setback, which is 8.8 meters, down from 21.1. So just very briefly, in summary.
Madam, you have 10 seconds.
Absolutely. The applicant is asking for exceptions to almost every rule that applies to their property to make their proposed development work. This won't work. It needs work. Committee members, please adjourn
Okay,
this
thank
hearing.
you, madam. Thank you. Your 5 minutes is up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? No? We'll go back to Mr. Bronskill. There are no other speakers registered. Mr. Bronskill, are you there?
Yes, sir. I was just getting unmuted. I'm here.
Yes, Mr. Bronskill, I am sure you've heard from the previous speakers. I guess there seems to be a number of uses that seem to have been, that I think we should probably, you may want to address. One is the traffic issue. There was an issue of whether this is a potential commercial use. And I guess there's this other one about maybe if you want to go into a little more elaboration of when you did this public consultation, how many people did you actually meet with? If you want to go, those are the 3 that I can identify that seem seem to be a concern to the speakers.
Thank you, sir. I was taking some notes and will try and pick up those requests from you as I go through my notes, if that's acceptable. And obviously, sir, if I miss them, please remind me.
Certainly.
Just dealing very quickly with this notion of the working group, sir. We were made aware of the request for an adjournment yesterday. And sir, we've been at this since 2018. There was also a suggestion that somehow there's a bait and switch with an original proposal and there's been significant changes and we're trying to pull a fast one. The original proposal presented way back had 10 beds. We're at 12. So yes, we've added 2 beds through this process because we've got the opportunity to do so on a 30,000 square foot site. There was an open house on January 21st, 2020. That is this year. That was before COVID. There were flyers circulated to the community. A letter was initially sent at the start to over 75 homes. The first meeting was with the AGM, where I understand the Resident Association invited 15 people to come to that first meeting. There was an AGM that included over 35 people. And then this community consultation with a flyer, sir, that included at this community meeting, city staff being on hand and the councillor being on hand. This is a minor variance application, my respectful submission, that has gone above and beyond consultation requirements. To include a community consultation meeting on January 21st, 2020 with flyers and city staff is beyond anything that would be expected of an application like this. And I think there has been adequate consultation. But sir, If further consultation is required in the community's view, there is still a site plan application that has to be finalized, and a further meeting can be held through the councillor's office to discuss that site plan application before it is finalized, and we would be happy to do that. In terms of traffic, sir, early on, staff determined that a transportation study is not required. As you noted, this is not a significant traffic generation. There was a mention to convoys in the neighborhood, sir. This is not a funeral home. It's a hospice. It's a peaceful place. And there is not significant traffic to the point where a transportation study was not required to be submitted with the application. Very quickly, sir, in terms of the notion of basement flooding, actually, sir, there are existing basements for the two houses. There will only be a basement under the third-story portion, not under the first-story portion, Block A. The actual area of the basement now will be reduced as a result of this application. But we are aware of the issue, have done extensive studying of it, and certainly through the site plan process have to satisfy staff that we're not creating an undue impact. There also seems to be some confusion about the built form. There was concerns about shadowing. There's a one-story 4.45 portion for a significant proportion of the site that is located 8.8 meters at its closest from the property lines. There will be no shadows from a one-story portion that is located that far away from the property line. The three-story portion, as I noted at the start, is 12.75 meters and located 15.6 meters from the west property line, well under a 45-degree angular plane. There will be no meaningful shadows, and I'm not sure that this maybe has been understood. There's no reduction of green space. It's private property. Extensive planting is being proposed on the common property line. As the councillor noted, green space remains on Brightwood that can be repurposed, and the frontages of this site include a significant public right-of-way and city-owned lands that will be landscaped and treed. An arborist report was submitted. It has been reviewed. My understanding is urban forestry have identified no concerns, and any compensation for trees to be removed will be satisfied through the notice of approval conditions. A concern was expressed about precedent. There is no precedent value. This is an institutional use that is permitted in the neighborhoods, but it is being evaluated under policy 4.1.9. There are not similar opportunities in the neighborhood for this. It is not a precedent. The last thing, sir, I will say, and I'm going to choose my words very carefully.
Sir, if you could summarize.
Yes, sir. I've done this for a long time. I've been in front of this panel on many residential homes and tweaks to existing approved mixed-use developments. And I've heard this before, and I'm pleased to be here to represent an institutional use that we need more of in the city. People say it's a beautiful building. People say they support the use. They then immediately say, just not in my neighborhood. And yet this is exactly where the OP says this use should be located. This is a hospice. This is a peaceful use. They exist already in certain neighborhoods, and we need more. And I would be proud to have this in my neighborhood.
Thank you, Mr. Bronskill. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? No questions? Can I get a motion on this application, please?
Mr. Chair, I'll put forward a motion. I just need 30 seconds to compose my thoughts here. 1 second, please.
Mr. Chair, while Mr. Bartolo is making a motion, I just wanted to double check that you all see me and everything is fine because I was having a bit of
loud and clear.
computer trouble.
No,
okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
Mr. Bartolo, do you have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chair. So I'll preface my motion with a couple comments. One, this is not a precedent-setting body. There is no precedent being set by this. Two, this doesn't mean that the broader community is getting a zone change should this be approved, nor is it a commercial use that's being approved. Three, with respect to traffic and engineering requirements, We've heard comments about stormwater. We've heard comments about shadow. These items will be worked out in detail with the city engineering department, with the detailed engineering plans that are submitted and acquired as part of an application like this, should it make it through this next portion. And a part of these amendments that are being, or these minor variances that are being applied for exist due to the orientation and geometry of the land assemblage with respect to side yards, rear yards, and what functions as a side yard and what functions as a rear yard. So taking all of these factors into consideration and understanding the comments of the community, I'm going to put forward a motion to approve this variance subject to the NOAC conditions noted in the staff report from city planning.
Thank you, Mr. Bartolo. Do I have someone to second Mr. Bartolo's motion? Ms. Sankar seconds. All those in favor? Opposed? Ms. Adirati dissenting. Mr. Bronskill, your application has been approved subject to city planning conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. We'll now go back to our item number 13, 509 Melrose Avenue. And we're looking for Mr. Lebrach.
I'm here.
Yes, Mr. Lebrach. Just a moment here. Sir, have you had the opportunity to look at the city planning report? Oh, I'm sorry, sir. Did I get your name and address, please?
Sure, it's Richard Lebrach. I'm the principal of Richard Lebrach Architect.
And your address?
3414 Young Street.
Thank you. Did you have the opportunity to read the city planning report dated May 22nd?
Yes, we have.
Yeah, so you're aware of their condition, that recommended condition that they're recommending that variances number 5 and 8 for this application be refused.
Yes, read it, we acknowledge it, but we don't agree with their recommendation.
Okay, well, I would suggest that you give us a very brief presentation on why, if you want to modify your variances or you're going to dispute the city planning department's report. So if you could give us a presentation in that regard.
Yes, I'd be pleased to. The original planning report that was given on March 17th concerned itself with front yard setback, front yard landscape, and building height and number of stories. Since that time, we revised our design and removed the landscape design from 3 to 2 stories and reduced our heights from 10 to 9.45 and 10.17 to 9.93. The variances for front yard setback, I think, are self-evident. The house to the west is very much set back and triggers a variance which we feel is contrary to the prevailing front yard setback on the street. If you'd like me just to address the heights, I can. I just have one other variance I wanted to speak to. But since the planner did not mention any concern about, I'm going to move on to the variances. The height overlay map permits a height of 10 meters and 2 stories, and our change of design, as I said, has gone from 3 to 2 stories. Our design reduces the variances from 10 to 9.45 for variance 8 from 10.17 to 9.93, and further research in the neighborhood shows that there are approved height variances for 8 homes that exceed 9.54 meters, of which 5 houses on Brookdale, Cranbrook, Melrose, and Marmion range from 10.12 to 10.63. In summary, the revised planning report dated May 22nd suggests, in quotes, a flat roof dwelling would create greater overlook issues and would generally feel more imposing than a pitched roof building. There are hundreds of examples of well-designed flat roof homes in the neighborhood approved with height variances. My client wishes to build this style of home. And as for overlook or shadowing, we have 7 letters of support from immediate neighbors to the west and east, including people across the road who approved the design even prior to the revision. of our design in the earlier rendition. The property backs onto a soccer field with large mature trees abutting the property, which also mitigates any possible overlook. There are no rear setbacks, no side yard setbacks, and we respectfully submit that this proposal meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act, making these variances minor and appropriate developments for this neighborhood.
Okay, thank you,
Happy to
sir.
answer any.
Thank you, sir. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? I note that there is no one registered to speak on this item.
So, through you, Mr. Chair, I just want to,
Ms. Adirati?
yes, I just want to mention my concern. I know that staff have no problem with the lot coverage of 38.95% versus 30%, but for me, this is a concern. I know that the maximum that we approved is around 32%. So just that's my comment to that.
May I respond to it?
Yes.
Sure. So again, when I specifically asked the planner, she had no concern, and I don't think that was surprising given that the lot is 106 feet long. It's shorter than most of the lots in the area, which are 120 plus feet. We conducted our own study of the 10 surrounding blocks to determine the average gross floor area permitted at 30%, and the conclusion, after looking at 100 random lots, is that the average GFA is 3,228 square feet at 30%, and ours is 3,184 square feet, less than that at the requested coverage. The house is very much in keeping, as you can see, if you could put the site plan up, it's very much in keeping with the scale and grain of the neighborhood. And the City of Toronto Research Portal provides 25 plus examples in the immediate vicinity, ranging from 35 to 41.5%. So there is a lot of other recently approved homes that have been approved at this percentage. And it's my contention that if you look purely at the planning of this house, no side yard setbacks, no rear yard setback, it really is in scale, and that the number is simply an exaggeration I mean, you look at it, it's not a large home.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions of the speaker? There being none, if I could get a motion on this application, please. There is no one registered to speak on this item.
Mr. Chair, I just had one quick question for the applicant.
Yes.
Yes.
It was mentioned that the percent coverage was a reflection of a smaller lot size than is typical in the neighborhood. I'm just looking at the key plan here. Is this more narrow than the neighboring houses to the left and right? What makes this lot atypical in terms of size?
Well, if you do a survey of the neighborhood, I did a study of 10 blocks surrounding the neighborhood. It's shorter. It's 106.1. I guess when they created the lots, because there's a school behind with a very large play area, they justified by making smaller lots. But this is not typical of the neighborhood. It is much smaller than the rest of the neighborhood. And if you look simply at the outline of the house, that it just does not look out of scale. It's very much in scale, but the numbers, when you do the math, come to this point. And as I said, there really are numerous examples in the neighborhood, in the vicinity, that range from 35 to 41.5%. So clearly, from a planning point of view, from an impact, the number is not it's not really what I want to look at. I want the committee to consider its actual fitness for the street and for the character of the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Thank you. Could I get a motion on this application, please? Mr. Bartolo?
Sorry, I had myself muted there. Mr. Chair, I will put forward a motion to approve this application subject to the condition that it be developed substantially in accordance with the plan submitted here.
So if I could just get that again, Mr. Bartolo, you're recommending approval? Pardon?
Subject that is built in accordance with the plans submitted in this, attached to this application.
Okay, so you're recommending approval subject to construction in accordance with the plans submitted to the committee and attached to this application?
That's correct.
Okay, someone to second Mr. Bartolo's motion? Ms. Sankar seconds. All those in favor? Opposed? Ms. Adirati dissenting. Sir, your application has been approved, subject to the conditions imposed by Mr. Bartolo.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're now on item number 15, 37 Dallas Road.
Hi.
Just a,
Hello.
hang on just a moment.
Oh.
Ms. Evangelista, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can I get your full name and address, please?
Sure. Ida Evangelista, 53 Bentworth Avenue, Toronto.
Great, thank you very much. I just wanted to ask, have you had the opportunity to read the city planning report of the 23rd of May? Because they're recommending that you're... Have you seen it?
I have seen their report, and I've also seen their subsequent email dated June 15th, which I believe was included in your materials, that they recognize their technical variances.
Just a moment.
And I have changes to put forth.
Okay, hang on just a second. They had their report of the 23rd of March recommended that the committee defer the application. And then if it wasn't deferred, that it should be refused. Have you seen that application? Have you seen that report?
I did see that staff report.
You haven't seen it?
Mr. Chair. Yes.
Well, you've seen it.
Yes.
Okay. I guess, do you want to defer the application?
No. Can I proceed, Mr. Chair?
Well,
am I being heard? Can you hear me clearly?
Do I need a motion on a deferral? No, that's fine. You can proceed if you want. So you're proposing not to defer the application.
That's correct.
Okay, all right. If you want to proceed, then make your case. You've got 5 minutes.
Okay. Actually, I have some changes to make to the application.
Okay.
We've worked with planning. We've made substantial changes. So can I go through those?
Sir, certainly. Go ahead.
Okay. Number 1 has been removed.
Deleted. Number 1 deleted.
Number 2 stays.
Okay.
Number 3 stays.
Okay.
Number 4 delete.
Number 4 stays.
No, delete.
Okay. So what are you changing?
Number 5 stays. Number 5 stays.
Okay.
Number 6 has been removed.
6 is deleted.
Number 7, number 8 remains.
Okay.
Number 9 has been removed.
9 is deleted.
Number 10 stays.
Okay.
11 stays.
Okay.
Number 12 will now read 10.53.
Okay, so it will read the proposed building, well, what it currently says right now is the proposed building height is 11.03 meters, and you want it to read the proposed building height is which?
10.53.
10.53, okay, thank you.
Okay.
Number 13?
There is no 14. 13.
No, 13? It will now read 1.73.
Okay, so the proposed finished first floor height is 1.73 meters, changed from 2.01 meters.
That's correct.
Okay, so let me just go through this again.
That's, okay.
Number 1 is deleted. That's the platform above grade. Number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5 stay the same.
No, 4 delete.
Number 6.
4 delete. Number 2. Number 2, number 3 stays the same. 4 delete.
4 is deleted. Okay.
Yes.
5 stays the same.
Yes.
6 is deleted.
Yes.
7 and 8 stay the same. 9 is deleted.
Yes.
Variance number 12 is changed from 11.03 meters to 10.53. And variance 13 is changed from 2.01 meters to 1.73 meters. Have I gotten that correct?
Yes.
Good. Okay, so if you want to, if you want to make a make a presentation to the committee indicating why you think we should approve these this revised application. You have 5 minutes.
We have received additional comments from staff saying that they recognize that, and it should be included June 15th, 2020. Michael Romero, the planning technician, sent in a report saying that they recognize it is technical in nature. We are being recognized as a 3-story because our basement is closest to established grade than the main floor. Right now, where we're located, we already have an 11-foot high basement. If we dig any further, we're going to go into the water table. And that being said, our garage would then be below grade, which is not a permitted use. So that's why we have to be at the 3-story. And again, it is technical in nature because it's basement's closest to the above ground, to established grade. Our main wall height that we are asking for is only for the pop-out at the back of the house, where you see that bay window pop-out. There's an area just above it. There's a roof line, and the main wall height is taken to that roof line, which is a very, very small portion. Majority of the main wall height is 7.73, which would be indiscernible from the street. Our platforms, I have a platform at the front of the house. It's for decorative purposes only, just to create some articulation at the front. And our deck at the back, the reason why we have a variance is because this is now being considered a 3-story. We have no height under the new bylaw. We have no length under the new bylaw. We have no side yards. We do have a height under the old bylaw, and that is simply because they've considered, even if the roof has a 2% slope, they consider it the zoning examiner considers that to be part of the flat roof. So because it's 25% more, it's more than 25% considered flat roof, they have to take it from the center line of the road to the top of the roof under the old 7625 bylaw, and that's why we have a variance under that bylaw. However, if we take it to the midpoint, we're just slightly over 8 at about 8.26. And that also, our variance for the 1.73, it's taken from the center line of the road to the first floor height. However, from established grade under the new bylaw, we do not have that variance. We have removed it. So that being said, planning has recognized that the variances, a lot of the variances that we are asking for are technical in nature. We have satisfied transportation. I understand that there are forestry conditions which we are also in support of. And if you have any questions, I'm more than willing to answer.
Thank you, madam. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? No, I note that there is no one registered to speak on this item. So if I could get a motion on this revised application, please. Ms. Sankar?
Yes, thank you through you, Mr. Chair. I do accept the changes and the explanations made by the applicant here today, and I'll put forward a motion to approve this application with the changes made by the applicant today, such that variance number 1, 4, 6, and 9 are removed, and variance number 12 now reads 10.53 meters, and variance number 13 now reads 1.73 meters in the floor height. And it will be subject to forestry. That's my motion.
Okay, thank you. Someone to second Ms. Sankar's motion? Mr. Bartolo seconds. All those in favor? Madam, your application has been unanimously approved, subject to your revised application has been unanimously approved, subject to urban forestry conditions.
Thank you very much, and everybody keep safe.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, do you
Ladies
mind if we
and
brief
gentlemen,
break for 5 minutes?
would you like to take a break? Yes, let's take a break. We'll be back in, how's 15 minutes?
Perfect.
Okay.
3:20 back in the chair?
We'll be back at 3:20. So Dan, you're gonna get the chance to go down to your condo this year or what? Man, the way things are going in the States. With Kelsey still in planning? Oh, she did, eh? Oh. So are they getting you guys ready to go back into the buildings? September?
Throw that box in there. You're gonna open up the box and you're gonna put the baggie of tractors in the water. Like, what are you gonna do? I just get rid of my box. It was in a box.
Ladies and gentlemen, committee back in session. Thank you very much. We're now on item number 16, which is 349 Laird Drive. And the only speaker I have registered is Mr. Hamid Behesht. Are you there, sir?
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chair.
Yes, thank you very much, sir. As I indicated, there are no staff conditions, recommended conditions associated with this application. I noticed that it's pretty clear what you're asking for in the 5 variances before us. I'll just ask the committee if it has any questions or if it would like a presentation. There is no one registered. Ms. Adirati, would you like a presentation?
Yes, please.
Okay. Mr. Behesht, if you could give us a presentation on what you see as the merits of your proposal.
Yes, of course. Good afternoon. My name is Arjang Behesht from Homeland, 49 Wycliffe Crescent. To my side is Mr. Hamid Behesht, the architect of the project. It's a pleasure to see the faces of the committee once again, even if it is virtually. So I will give a quick presentation regarding the application. There are 5 minor variances before us today, 2 of which are the same, leaving 4 real variances to consider. The first is regarding the rear deck. Now, if I could kindly ask the city staff to please display the page marked as slide number 1 as part of the presentation package submitted to the committee. It's one of the 6 pages submitted to the committee as part of the presentation package. Yes, number 1. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. So I would like to draw your attention to the red line at the rear of the property, which represents the maximum building depth. Now, the proposed building could, as of right, go as far back as that red line, at which time the deck could have a further projection of 2.5 meters from the red line. So in reality, our deck projects far less into the backyard than what it potentially could. In our case, both the width of the deck and the width of the house itself are relatively narrow. As a result, we have slightly increased the depth of the deck so as to increase its functionality and accommodate the gathering of a family more comfortably. If I could please switch to slide number 2, which speaks to the building height. Thank you very much. So the real height of our building, which can be seen, is represented by the arrows highlighted in pink, which is taken from the established grade to the top of the front wall, which is 8.59 meters, only 9 centimeters over the bylaw requirement. The real increase in height is highlighted at the top in yellow, which is part of the roof, and it occurs beyond the front of the building, which cannot really be seen by eye level. And that's been done to allow the roof trusses enough space to be built. We can also see that the individual floor heights have been maintained to a minimum. For example, the clearance space of the garage is 6 foot 9 inches, which is the minimum requirement of the bylaw. The first floor height is 9.5 feet, and the second floor height is only 7 feet high. The next variant speaks to the landscaping. If I could please ask the committee staff to go back to slide number 1. Thank you. Now, usually a home in Leaside allows for a 1-car garage. This creates a number of problems for owners because nowadays families and households usually have more than 1 car, which means that the second car has to be kept either on the driveway and moved in and out, or simply kept on the street. The streets of Leaside are especially narrow, they're condensed, and they're usually busy. So the more cars that are parked on the street means a greater danger for both pedestrian and vehicular traffic. In this design, we have managed to provide a 2-car garage, which remedies these problems. Because of this, the front landscaping has been reduced by 4% only, from 50% to 46%, which is absolutely minor. In fact, in the Leaside Character Preservation Guidelines, it states that, quote, the front landscaping should be predominantly with soft landscaping, plants, sod, etc., and to minimize, to the greatest extent possible, the use of paved surfaces, end quote. Our front soft landscaping exceeds the expectations of the bylaw, as seen on the diagram by the ample amount of greenery at the front yard. So the minor variance could be eliminated, though, by adding paved landscaping, steps, and walkways, but which would go against the recommendations of the guidelines, and frankly, it would be less appealing to the design as a whole. And lastly, again, in accordance with the preservation guidelines, the driveway has been placed in such a location so as to preserve a large, healthy, mature tree at the front of the property. Finally, in order to get an impression of our proposal from the immediate neighbors, we approached the surrounding neighborhood, and we were able to receive a written letter of support from our adjacent neighbor to the north at 351 Laird Drive, which is included in the submitted package.
Sir, you have 30 seconds to summarize.
Yes, Mr. Chair. So unfortunately, we didn't hear anything back from the other neighbors. We guess that that has something to do with the coronavirus pandemic. Thank you very much. If there's any other questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of the speaker? Any questions of the speaker? There, again, as I indicated, there's no one registered to speak on this item. Can I get a motion, please?
Okay, Mr. Chair. I'll make a motion. And I do see a letter of support here. I don't see any problems with this application. I do believe it meets the 4 tests. I'll motion to approve this application.
Thank you. Someone to second Ms. Sankar's motion? Ms. Adderati seconds. All those in favor? That motion carries unanimously. Sir, your application's been unanimously approved. Thank you for waiting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, committee members.
We are now on item number 17, which is 377 Hounslow Avenue. I notice that we have Mr. Dickey, who is the agent, and there is one person registered to speak. I'll just... Mr. Randall Dickey, are you there?
I am, Mr. Chair.
Yes, thank you, sir. I just wanted to ask, have you had the chance to read the city planning report of the 22nd of May?
Yes, I have.
Because there
And
was
based on that,
the report indicated that you were going to make some changes to the application.
yes, Mr. Chair, that is correct. And I would like to confirm that we would like to make some changes to the list of variances.
Okay, go ahead.
Specifically, item number 1
Okay,
is to be deleted,
deleted.
dealing with the deck side yard setback, as well
Hang on
as
just a second.
variance number.
Slow down a second, sir. Item number 1 is deleted. Item number 2 stays the same.
No change to item, it stays the same.
Okay,
3 and 4 would stay the same.
okay,
Variance number 5, dealing with lot coverage, we would like to reduce that to 32.0%.
okay,
And variances 6 and 7 would remain as listed.
okay. So if I could just summarize that, variance number 1, which relates to the deck side yard setback, that variance is deleted. Variances 2, 3, and 4 stay the same. Variance number 5 is reduced, the proposed lot coverage is reduced from 32.35% to 32%. And variances 6 and 7 stay the same.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, thank you. Just give me a minute here.
Of course.
And I just wanted to say, sir, in that city planning report, you've made the modifications that staff recommended, and they're saying then, even if those modifications are made, they had a recommendation that the proposal be developed substantially in accordance with the west and east elevation drawings submitted to the committee, date stamped as received on April 21st, 2020, and attached as attachments 1 and 2 to their report. So you're aware of that condition?
Yes, I am, sir, and we are agreeable to that.
Okay, thank you, sir. I'll just ask the committee, we do have one person registered for speaking on this item, so would you like a presentation? Okay, well, are there any questions of the speaker? Okay, thank you. We have a Mir Taheri registered to speak on this item. Are you there?
Chair and committee members, the ratepayer is not present.
Not present? Okay, thank you. So we have no one registered to speak on this item other than Mr. Dickey. So the committee has no questions on the application. He has made the revisions to the application as requested by city planning. Could I get a motion on this application, please? On this revised application? Mr. Bartolo?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I will put forward a motion to approve this application subject to the following requirements and revisions. That variance number 1 be deleted, removed, that variance number 5 be changed to 32% even, that the project be developed substantially in accordance with the west and east elevation drawings submitted to the Committee of Adjustment, date stamped 21 April 2020, as attached to amendments 1 and 2 of this report, and subject to conditions noted in the forestry memo in the attached report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bartolo. Can I have someone to second Mr. Bartolo's motion? Ms. Adirati seconds. All those in favor? That motion carries, sir. Your revised application has been unanimously approved, subject to city planning conditions and urban forestry.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for waiting. Item number 18, 580 Deloraine Avenue.
Mr. Chairman, it's Michael Goldberg speaking.
Yes, thank you, sir. I was just going to ask, can I get your name and address, please?
Michael Goldberg, I'm the principal at Goldberg Group. We are planning consultants, 2098 Avenue Road, Toronto M5M 4A8.
Okay, thank you, sir. I just wanted to ask, did you have the opportunity to read the city planning report of May 22nd?
Yes, sir.
Because they had basically no objections, provided that you modify the variance number 5 so that the lot coverage was no more than 36%. Were you proposing to do that?
No, sir. We'd like to provide, we wouldn't like to do that, but I would like to provide an explanation relating to that.
Okay, well, I'll ask if you could make a very brief presentation on the committee as to why you're not amenable to planning's recommendation in that regard.
Okay, so if the, I guess the controller of the screen could put on the the presentation that we prepared. There was a presentation filed with a colored site plan. I'm wondering if that's available.
Members, applicant, and chair, we do not have access to a presentation at this time.
No, sir, we don't have
Okay.
access to it.
Okay, that's fine. If you could turn to the site plan, that would be great. Okay, so Mr. Chair, the 36, the difference between the 36% and the proposal, which is at 38.58%, it just means that there's some infilling at the eastern side yard, and the additional space of the bay, which is a 0.46 meter wide bay at the rear of the house. So you could see in adding that space, there is no side yard variance requested. There is no rear yard variance requested. There is no building length or building depth requested. There's no landscaped open space requested. And my perspective on this, members of committee, is that functionally, the space around the building has been appropriately provided without compromising any of the site standards. In addition, I, as a planner, and I'm a planner, I like to look at the lot and the way the building and massing has been deployed on the lot qualitatively. And you can see that there remains a 10.5 meter rear yard. There is a varying side yard of 1.35 to 1.58 on the east side. There is a flankage side yard setback ranging from 1.42 to 1.87 on the corner side. So I think that the way the lot has been sympathetically designed is it works, it's compatible, it's a corner property. If I would have the presentation available to you, there would be a sheet on there highlighting all the variants, all the lots in the neighborhood that have received a variance greater than 36%. So when the staff say that the lot coverage approvals by the C of A have generally not exceeded 36%, I can tell you, you don't have it before you, but there are at least within about a 2-block area, about a dozen of them that exceed 36%. So those are my comments on the lot coverage variance, because qualitatively, I think that this has been a well-designed lot that is sympathetic to the area. Also, members of committee, if you would have the presentation that we provided to the committee, there are a number of photographs of existing homes. This is a neighborhood that has, over the last 25 years, experienced considerable reinvestment in the form of replacement housing, and the type of housing, its height, its style, with 2 living levels above the garage with an at-grade garage, is very typical of this proposal and very typical of the neighborhood. So the scale and massing of the house, the roof line, the 2 living levels. Oh, you've got it there. Thank you so much. So members of community, I'll just backtrack a tad. Those 2 blue areas, that's the difference between 36% and 38.58%. And you can see it's being achieved without the need for any variances relating to side yard, building depth, and so on. So I would say that there was also and if you turn the page, please, of this presentation.
Okay, thank you, sir. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker?
I appreciate if I can listen to the rest of the presentation.
Yes, hang on just a second, Ms. Adorati. I'm sorry, who had Ms. Adorati, you had a question?
No, I just would like to ask you to let the presenter present, because I want to listen to the next slide.
I'm sorry,
Okay,
I missed that.
Thank you. If the next slide could be put on from the presentation.
Okay, go ahead.
Right. So I don't have to spend much time. The subject property is in blue. All right, is in blue. The green properties are where the owner has received sign-offs or letters of no objection from the neighbors. If you can turn the page, please. Those circles, so you can see up at the top, that is the blue property, where we're requesting the 38.58 on the subject site. Kitty Corner at the southwest corner is 41.50, and all the circled properties in the area are properties that have received variances in excess of 36.0%. So that's where I got about a dozen or so within a block or 2 of the subject property. And the other numbers of the variances are in there as well. Could you turn the page again, please? That's the style of the house, very typical of the area. It's 0.32 of a meter, or 1 foot higher at the top of the roof. But when you look at the pictures, which I'm going to show you in a moment, it's very typical, both in height and scale, of the other homes in the immediate neighborhood. Could you please turn the page, please? Again, that's the corner. Could you turn the page, please? That's the home, looking at it from the front. Very typical of the neighborhood. A low porch, no more than 1.2 meters out of the ground, with stairs inside the house leading to 2 living levels above, and not a huge vaulted roof, but a very typical roof of the area. I would say some of the homes have even bigger roofs. Could you please turn, please? The house on the right was a 2019 proposal, and the homeowners just weren't happy with that design, and at the end of the day asked the architect to produce a different design, which now produces this drawing on the left. That is the proposal that's before you. Can you turn the page, please? Now, these are houses that are typical of this neighborhood. As I say, there's been considerable reinvestment, and you can see there are different roof lines. It's very common to have 2 living levels above the garage. Some have gabled roofs. Some have flatter roofs. Some have more steeply pitched roofs and higher vaulted roof lines. And as you can see, the proposal slopes away from the sides in all directions. Could you turn the page, please?
Okay, sir, could you summarize?
So, members of committee, many of these variances had been dealt with in 2019, so they're not new variances. but they're just new because it's a new application. I've reviewed this both from an area character, from a respect and reinforce the existing physical character of the neighborhood as specified in section 415 of the official plan, and from section 41, 40,
Okay, thank you,
45
sir.
of
Thank
the
you, sir.
act.
Does
All
the
four tests-
committee have any further questions of the speaker? There being none, there's no one registered to speak on this item. Could I get a motion on this application, please? Ms.
Okay,
Sanger?
through you, Mr. Chair. I think the applicant has provided ample proof to show that it meets within the character of the neighborhood. I don't have a problem saying that I think it does meet the four tests. And as such, I'm going to propose a motion to approve this application. And I'm going to make it subject to the site plan that he had submitted to the Committee of Adjustment. I think the one that I have in my portfolio here is April 29th of this year. And I see a forestry memo with specific conditions, so I will make it subject to forestry, and that's my motion.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Sankar. So if I can just summarize, your motion is subject to urban forestry and subject to the site plans on file with the committee. Thank you. Someone to second Ms. Sankar's motion? Mr. Bartolo seconds. All those in favor? Opposed? Ms. Adirati dissenting. Sir, your application has been approved, subject to urban forestry and building in accordance to the plans submitted to the committee.
Thank you, members of committee.
Thank you very much. Item number 19, 412 Glengarry Avenue.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and member of committee.
Just a moment, sir.
My name is Majid Pajuhi Kargar.
Sir, just a moment. Are you Mr. Majid R. A.R.?
Majid Pajuhi Kargar, yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. Just a moment here. Can I get your full name and address, please?
Majid Pajuhi Kargar. I'm agent of the owner and designer of the 412 Glengarry Avenue, Toronto.
Okay, thank you, sir. There is no one registered to speak on this item. I consider the variances you have before us are fairly straightforward. I'll just ask the committee, would it like a presentation or does it have any questions? No. If I could get a motion on this application, please.
Sorry, I appreciate a presentation because I want to also, if an explanation for variance number 1, lot coverage 36.03 versus 30%.
Okay, thank you, sir. If you could give us a very brief presentation on what you see are the merits of your proposal, specifically with respect to the lot coverage issue.
Sure. Actually, the design happened because of the client's needs and the thinking of our team.
Sir, can you speak up?
Sure. To make the like a proper livable space for the family. Although the coverage it's a little bit exceed from the permitted, but we carve out some portion from like a middle of the building to get more light and more a relation of the human with the nature, which we assume that it could be the plant there. And even we have the get the proper distance from the neighbor. So actually we talk with the neighbors. Most of them are very excited to see the new building. We have the letter of support from the west side of ours, 414. Which is the new building kind of similar style as what we are presenting. And we think this is the proper design for the neighborhood and the area, which is the, typical of the new building in the area. And it's going to be a very nice livable space for the family, which the area is very family oriented with people have like 2-3 kids at least. So we try to meet the client requirement in that building. And also, if I have a time to explain more, we reduced the size of the driveway to respect the big mature tree that we have in the front yard. And we kind of provide a very quick 3D render. If you can open that for us to show to the committee, it's on the application documents. So we can show what we are thinking about the future of this building. So please, if you can open that, it could be on the list that you have the LNCA correspondence, I think. Yeah, this one. So in terms of the height, we studied the present. Actually, we just applied for 4 variances, which without its minor, we studied the neighborhood, and we found they were very similar that has been approved before, and so we are thinking that would be a nice proposal for the new proposal for the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you, sir. Does the, Ms. Adarati, do you have any further questions?
No, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I'll just ask, are there any further questions of the applicant? There being none, again, there is no one registered to speak on this item. So unless there's more questions, if I could get a motion on this application, please. Ms. Sankar?
Okay, Mr. Chair, I've heard what the applicant has said, and I think I'm willing to accept the application, and specific to the photos that he had displayed before us here today. I'll motion to approve this application.
Thank you. Can I have someone to second Ms. Sankar's motion? Mr. Bartolo seconds. All those in favor? Opposed? Ms. Adarati dissenting. Sir, your application has been approved without condition.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We're on our last item. It's number 20, 100 Kingsdale Avenue. Is the, we have
Larissa.
two
Yes, I'm
people
here.
registered to speak. Ms. Tam, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, hello. Thank you, madam. Could I get your full name and address, please?
Yes, it's Larissa Tam, 100 Kingsdale Avenue. I'm the owner of the house.
Okay, thank you, madam. Just wanted to ask before we start, just give me a moment here.
Yes.
Madam, I just want to ask, have you had the opportunity to read the Transportation Services Report of the 15th of June?
No, no, I didn't see that. Was that emailed to me?
It would have been on
Was
your
it on-
file. I don't know if they're emailed to you, but you have to check your file.
Uh-oh, maybe I didn't. Sorry, I'm not too familiar with the whole process, so I didn't really see that. If it was online or?
Well, it's online, and
Oh, okay.
it's from the, it's dated June 15th. It's from the Transportation Services Division.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to ask, I had a number of questions about the property. Since you haven't read the city report,
Sorry.
the Transportation Services report, that had a number of things I wanted to ask you about. One,
okay,
they
sure.
say that they're saying that your proposed property has no interior garage. Is that correct?
No, it does.
No,
It's
I
very
didn't think it was,
small.
because I was out there, and there is a garage.
Oh.
They have it down here as your property has no garage. It has a one-car garage.
It does, but it's very small, so we actually
Yes,
can't get
okay.
any cars in it. Yes.
Okay, and
Yes.
the other thing I wanted, basically, they're not in favor of the variances you're asking for, and they're asking that you defer the application so that you can make changes to the driveway, to the site plan.
Oh.
Are you prepared? Would you like to defer the application, or would you like us to deal with it today?
Well, I don't, I'm just looking at this for the first time. I didn't even see this.
You don't.
I'm just
Okay.
reading it right now. I mean, I guess what I was going to bring to the table, what these variances is that, first of all, in terms of the length that you need of 5.6 meters, as you can see by the survey, I only have 5.49 meters from the property line to the.
Madam, that refers to the distance from the front wall of the building to the property line, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, but
So I can't change that because my house is old and I can't move anything.
okay. So what I wanted to ask you, madam, would you like to defer the application to talk to Transportation Services, or would you like to would you like the committee to deal with the application today? And I also,
you deal
another
with-
thing I wanted to ask you, are you here because you got a notice of violation?
Yes, because I got something from the traffic services saying that our driveway was legally, was wider than it is supposed to be
Okay,
legally. but
madam, I didn't hear
error-
that. Can you speak up? I didn't pick that up.
Sorry, I got a notice of violation because the driveway was wider, and it should only be 3.7 meters wide. This is what the traffic services person told me. And it's wider, but because the driveway was done, I think it was redone a long time ago. So that's why I came to the committee to try and get
Okay,
approval.
so madam, am I correct to state that you bought the house with the driveway the way it is?
It was done probably after I bought it, but I wasn't there at that time, so I wasn't sure what was going on. And I think that when they redid the driveway, they said they would just, the top of the driveway near the house was wider already. So they said that they would just make it the same width all the way down. So, but I wasn't here when that decision was made. I was actually pregnant and was having my kids. So I didn't make that decision. Then I found, so when I came back, because I moved out of the house.
Let me just clear this up first, though, madam. Let's clear this up first. Do you want to defer the application or not?
I guess I should defer it because then I can ask somebody more clearly about what to say about it.
Well,
because
yeah,
I don't know how
if
to
you
do
haven't
it.
read Transportation Services report, then,
Yes.
it's not fair.
Probably better to, okay. Maybe I can ask the committee how to access the report. Is it online?
So are you going to ask for a deferral?
Yes, I'll ask for a deferral then.
Okay,
So that I can look closely at it.
I have one person here who's registered to speak. So I'm just,
Okay.
I'll just ask the committee. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? The speaker wants to request a deferral.
No.
Okay, I'll
Sorry.
just ask, is a Miss
really know.
Sherilyn Vitesi here?
Members, the ratepayer is not here.
Okay, thank you. All right, then. Okay, madam, if you're requesting a deferral, I'll just ask the committee if I could get a motion on the deferral request. Mr. Bartolo?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I will put forward a motion to defer this application.
Okay, thank you. Someone to second that motion? Oh, Mr. Bartolo, and the reason for the deferral?
The reason for the deferral is to allow the applicant to coordinate with transportation services and get the details of the report.
Okay, thank you. Someone to second Mr. Bartolo's motion? Ms. Adderati seconds. All those in favor? Opposed? Ms. Sankar dissenting. Madam, your application has been deferred to the next available meeting so that you can meet with Transportation Services to discuss your issues. Good luck, and please make it very clear to Transportation Services that there are a number of driveways on this street that are exactly the same width as yours.
Yes, and I wrote them down in my letter, so
Okay,
that's.
thank
why
you,
I didn't-
madam. Okay,
thank you.
our meeting is adjourned. Can I get a motion to terminate?
Through you, Mr. Chair, a motion to terminate
Okay,
at 3:50.
thank you, Ms. Adderati. Someone to second that? Mr. Bartolo seconds. We're adjourned. Thank you very much, folks. That was a long meeting. Thanks for that. Take care,
Thank you.
folks. We'll see you soon.
Good afternoon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.